With Jess Brogden. Jess's video was from a series of 3 videos produced by us for Meat Livestock Australia on healthy soil visual indicators. This video focused on the soil conditions on the surface and the soil conditions below the surface, looking at subclover roots. So over to you, Jess, to give us an overview.
Thanks, Shell. So as Shell mentioned, this is the 3rd video in the AgriFocus booklet, and it was actually developed as part of 2 information posters for MLA. And so the 3rd video looked at issues like soil dispersion, slaking, salinity, looked at what was causing soil disturbance when you see soil crumbs on the surface, and inadequate nodulation. So I'll also mention that I'm actually standing in for Lisa this morning, so I'll do my best to answer your questions, and if I can't, then I'll definitely follow up.
Fantastic. So how much of an issue is poor nodulation in subclover?
Really big. So it's really important to note that just because you have clover in your system, it doesn't actually mean that it's fixing nitrogen. So just to put that into perspective, the New South Wales DPI actually did a survey across 225 paddocks, and that was in central and southern pasture zones, and actually found that 60% of our paddocks had a soil pH of less than 5. And that's actually when most soil rhizobia start to die off. So ideally, we want at least 4 large rhizobia or 20 little ones on the plant roots. And you want them to be pink in colour rather than white or green. So that pinky reddy colour actually indicates that they are fixing. Yeah, that sums that up.
So does anyone have any direct questions for Jess just yet? While people are thinking about the video and the things, you discussed soil dispersion. Do you see much surface soil dispersion when you're out in the paddocks?
Not generally. Our southwest soils are actually pretty good. We're pretty spoiled. But our higher rainfall does also mean that it does leach our sodium out of the root zone, so that would cause any issues. Oh, sorry, I've just got a note here too. Worth mentioning for the AgriFocus main event, we actually have Roger Armstrong speaking, and he'll be speaking a lot more in detail about subsoil ameliorations, particularly with sodic dispersive soils. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that will be an interesting session. So that is on the 21st of October, session 2, between 12:30 and 2 p.m.
Michelle, can I just pipe up and ask a question, thanks?
Yep, go Mark.
Jess, in light of that survey that the New South Wales did, is there any plans for work to happen with farmers on farms within the high rainfall zone of Victoria? And should we be looking at that?
So do you mean, is there anything in the pipeline to do a similar survey in Victoria? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. I was at a MLA project evaluation thing, and it was brought up there about 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and there was a link between nodulation and also some soil diseases that were affecting nodulation as well as soil pH.
Yeah, okay. So diseases, you said? Diseases.
Beg your pardon?
Diseases and soil pH.
Yes. I'm coordinating that day for MLA.
Okay.
So if he'd be worth having a chat to, just to see whether we should be doing some more work with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Sophia, I can't remember her last name, from Western Australia has been doing a lot of that bacterial and rhizobia work, and I think she was part of that wider survey a couple of years ago. We collected samples and sent over. So yes, it's definitely, I think, something we need to look into further.
Absolutely. I'll follow that up for you, Mark, and see where we're up to with that and if there's been any progress.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there has been any work done, and I'm just wondering whether there should be.
Oh, I definitely think there's a need for it. I'm a little bit biased, so I love clovers in our pasture systems, so I'm definitely all for it.
So getting back to the video, you were talking about earthworms. So what is the important thing to know about earthworms as an indicator of our soil health?
That they're amazing. So about 2 to 5 worms per shovel is generally being used as a really good rule of thumb. But you'll only find these in moist soil. So they do move around. And if you don't find any in that shovel, then just look for evidence of them. So that's like tunnels and little casts, which are the crumbs left on the soil surface, which is actually just digested food. So also you'll find in heavy rains or a storm that they're all on the surface, and that's just because their burrows have been flooded. So there's all a few little tells there to see if you've got them in your system.
You talk in the video series too about clover tissue testing. Where can we access those kits, and how do we do it?
That will be one I have to follow up actually, because I've got the kits in the office, but it doesn't actually say where they're from. And Lisa sent the last lot off, but I think Nutrient Advantage, I'll follow up with Feed Test. Craig, do you know anyone locally that does tissue testing?
Yeah, those labs that you just mentioned, yep. I think that some people use CSBP. There's a whole host of them. Yeah. I've just got to recall back to where you mentioned that in the video, but did you talk about just taking a sample from one spot or comparing 2 spots? Like one that looks healthier and one that looks not so healthy?
Well, yes, if you've got like variability through your paddock, you can get like an average. So you take the samples from different areas to give an average indicator of how that paddock is performing. Or if you've got isolated areas of stress, you can pick from that particular area or another and compare them, like you said. Yeah, it just depends on what you're looking for particularly.
Gotcha. Yep.
Any more questions for Jess on her video before we wrap up on Jess's session? Well, thank you very much, Jess. If you still have some questions or some questions come to you throughout the session, we will be revisiting all our speakers at the end, so you can share it with us then.